Good morning, everybody. Happy
Morning.
Monday. It's Christa Madrid, your realtor at Colorado Home Realty, and Brad Lyons at Independent Financial. Happy 420, Brad.
Happy 420. We are in Colorado, aren't we?
Indeed, indeed. 420 never means the same. It has its high side and it has its doom and gloom side.
Oh,
There's
yes.
few things in history that just really drag today down.
Yeah, there are. Colorado's got that soft spot, and I think America's heart with the happenings of 420 back in 1999 at Columbine. So,
Right.
there's always the mixed emotions on a day like today.
Well, then we throw it into this stay-at-home order.
Yep.
How do you think people are faring given a day like today in a time like this?
Probably a lot of people taking advantage of the laws in Colorado today, I guess, in
Uh,
celebration.
I
We're
will not
staying
be
home.
partaking.
We're staying home. We're partaking. Not me. I have too much bank work to do.
That's right. That's right. I have too much going on. And I'm in charge of the 3-year-old granddaughter today, so there will definitely be no partaking.
Probably a bad idea.
Well, yesterday there was a rally at the Capitol, which I did not
Yep.
attend. Did you attend that?
In spirit.
In spirit. Very good.
I paid
So,
attention and I followed it. I just had too much stuff to take care of at home. My wife was actually working at the hospital, and I needed to be home with the kiddos and making sure everybody was here safe and sound. So I didn't run
working
down
on
there to.
home improvement projects as well.
Yep, doing some home improvement projects and cooking the family Sunday dinner and all that kind of good stuff. So,
You,
but I did follow it, and it was very interesting to see what kind of turnout that was, and just kind of follow the banter on it. And there's a lot of good stuff I think there, but I think there's also a lot of we got to use caution and be careful and be smart about how we're going to actually proceed here.
which
So,
is what we were already doing prior to us realtors being told stay at home, period. No
right,
ifs, ands, or buts.
right.
Well, with that, is there any official word yet that it's been lifted or not lifted? Are we still waiting to hear?
No, there's no official word. I think that the reason behind some of the rallies is because people are getting concerned that the start date is getting pushed out further and further and further,
But we've seen
and
this happening. We saw this coming.
the smoke is billowing and the fire has started. And I really think that they're going to have a hard time keeping the cat in the bag anymore. People are going to have to kind of cautiously and safely return to work. And I think that they're just going to have to put the measures in place to be very, very protected and cautious about how they go about doing that, because it could lead to a much bigger boom of people getting sick. So really have to be careful on both sides there.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that has caught my eye over the weekend was appraisals. And appraisals this year have not been my good friend. I had a home come in under appraised originally by a few $1,000s, and then the second time around it came in under 17,000 under, and I'm like, what in the heck? I've had fellow realtors report the same thing.
Yep.
20,000 under, 15,000 under. You can't get these appraisers to change their mind, but and that's fine. If the appraiser's having a bad day, we're all going to have a bad day. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth.
Sometimes, yeah.
But this scares me. And this is where you're going to be my expert, because you as the lender order these appraisals. I read that appraisals are going to be approved to take place 120 days after a loan closes. Now, I also read that there's on portfolio loans. So do you want to explain to
Sure.
me, so I can explain to my buyers and to my sellers, what this means to them?
Yeah, so ultimately what that means is that is truly for a portfolio solution, which is it's actually a true bank loan.
Okay.
The way that a portfolio loan is funded is off the bank's deposits. So all the customers who put all the account holders who put their money into the bank, and all the investments the bank does, they use those proceeds to fund these types of a portfolio loan. It's not a loan that's backed by FHA or Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae or anything like that. So it's truly backed by the bank. So what the what the guideline says is that basically auditors who may come in to oversee what's happening with the loan funding team to make sure that they're working within the realm of what's approved. The regulators are going to give basically a stay of documentation there if they come in and they're like, well, hey, how did you prove value on this property? There's that 120-day window on a portfolio loan where that they could come in and actually provide that information after the fact, 120 days later. But it doesn't change anything for somebody who's going to be actually doing a regular Fannie or Freddie, like conventional style loan or first time home buyer loan. Those are still, the gatekeep is still in place for those. And while there may be some diminished requirements for that type of loan too, where it be, maybe it's just a drive-by appraisal. Sometimes that's happening and available, which is nice, but there's still going to have to be an appraisal. And on the portfolio side, the bank's going to actually still have to show that they did their due diligence on developing what the value was as well.
Well, I'm happy to hear that this really isn't going to affect my general audience.
Right.
So that's awesome. But these drive-by appraisals, I've had one drive-by appraisal ever. I represented the buyer. The seller called, the listing agent continued to call me. I've not heard from the appraiser. So I finally called the bank and she's like, we did a drive-by appraisal. Whoa, what? Thank God it came in at value. And this was last year. However, again, coming back with appraisers who are appraising low when they've been inside the property, especially this year, something about 2020, everybody's tightening their grip on value.
Yes.
They really, really have, even before Corona started, or before it became popular, let's put it that way. And so we as realtors really have to work our tails off. Not that we haven't already, but we have to really show the value. And putting up a fight with an appraiser is a tough thing for you. And if we're getting an appraisal that comes in low, even from a drive-by, we're in a tough scenario here. I mean, as a lender, what are your options? Most people come in tight when they're first-time home buyers or on some kind of program to purchase, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the truth. And I mean, an appraisal truly can make or break the deal, right? And it's like you just touched on, the likelihood that you're going to win a quote unquote fight with an appraiser is very low. I mean, they just basically what you have to do to when you get involved in a discussion with an appraiser after the value has been provided in their report, you have to go back to them and provide substantial documentation with regards to comparables that they didn't use, square footage that they didn't account for, upgrades that they didn't account for, all kinds of stuff. And you basically have to tell them they did a crappy job on the appraisal report, and then get them to admit they're wrong, and then get them to change their value. And then the underwriter has to oversee all this and go, oh, I can see where the appraiser made the mistake here.
Mm-hmm.
We're okay with the changed value. So it's not just about the appraiser admitting to making a mistake in the case that they actually even did that. It's their matter of opinion. But then an underwriter still has to come through and sign off on the fact that the value change was okay. So it's a pretty massive hurdle to get over in a contract situation where you have a low appraisal.
So talk to me about desktop appraisals. How do you guys go about those, and how do we coach our sellers on these so-called desktop appraisals?
So the desktop appraisal is just an amazing thing. Basically what that means is when a lender is running a desktop decision, they're using a software package that's universally accepted in the lending world. And basically it's a desktop underwriter. It's a software underwriter that's basically gatekeeping all of the approval marks on a file before it goes to a physical underwriter. And the desktop appraisal or a desktop underwrite is intuitive in that it looks up the address and it does its own little market comparison. And typically, if the value is relatively conservative to the market and the loan to value position is on the lower side, say 80% loan to value or lower, so they're putting at least 20% down on that deal, then there's a chance that there's enough market data through the software underwrite to support a waiver of appraisal. So it's basically in the findings or definitions that the desktop underwrite gives back to us. And the desktop underwrite will say approved for a valuation waiver. And that means we just don't even have to have an appraisal. So that's what a desktop underwrite is, and or a desktop appraisal is. It's a great thing to see as a lender because we just took 7 to 10 days out of the process and waiting to get an appraisal back.
Now, when can we expect something like a desktop appraisal? Would it be on most Freddie, Fannie Mae, traditional mortgage loans?
Yeah, that's where you're going to see it. It's going to be in a more traditional situation where somebody's putting like 20% down or more. And it can be on a purchase or a refinance. I've had several refinances lately that I've been working on that have desktop approvals, which is really nice. Or not desktop approvals, sorry, I keep saying that. Desktop appraisals, appraisal waivers. Exactly. Value waivers is what they're called. Sorry, Monday morning. But it's one of those things that we can take advantage of in a vanilla type of situation. And so when you would see that is truly on the front end. I mean, so you're out shopping for a home, you go under contract, you say, hey, Brad, they're under contract. The address is 123 Main Street. We're at this value. And then I transition that loan from being in a pre-approval status, pre-qualification status, into a real deal. And I introduce the address, the actual contract price, the down payment that they're planning to make, and I run the desktop underwrite again after I initially did it once I introduced that address. And then at that time, the findings will tell me, and I can provide that information to you and to the borrower and to the listing agent that no appraisal is going to be necessary. So it's on the front end. Now, there are some things that can change in the process. If something changes with their, your income changed because the loan officer did a terrible job, or the asset changed because they didn't understand how, there was a large deposit that had to be backed out or something. Something can compromise the findings that might make that value waiver change. Sometimes it's kind of odd to see that happen, but there is a possibility.
So prior to the COVID situation, how often did a desktop appraisal get done, and how can we see that as a regular practice moving forward?
I don't really know the actual conversion numbers there, to be honest with you. I would say that, maybe 20% of the time, 25% of the time, you might see a value waiver come through if you're in a conventional situation. But it's hard to actually put a number on that without actually going and running some spreadsheets on it.
Sure.
I can tell you that it's the very first thing that most lenders look for when they're doing their due diligence before they're sending a file into processing and underwriting, is they're going to look for that to be able to, get some weight off of your shoulders during the process. So we're looking for that good news early and often.
So it was already basically in practice. We're just becoming aware of it because of the situation, trying to figure out how we're going to overcome these hurdles. In the
absolutely.
In the social distancing scenarios. So if a home is approved for desktop appraisal, does the buyer still get charged for an appraisal? Just curious.
No.
There.
No,
even better.
There's no fee involved with that. So that's usually somewhere between like, I don't know, $500 and $700 in savings to them that they won't be spending that money. So
that is great news for everybody all the way around. It saves time, it saves money, and I'm seeing a smooth transaction when that's available.
Yep. So every lender is always looking for that on the front end to try and create those savings.
So one of the things that I feel like we need to make sure people know is regardless of what's going on in the world today, if you need to sell, then you need to talk to us. You can't hold off because your coworkers are saying, "Oh my God," they're in a panic and they're telling you now's the worst time to sell. If you're looking to buy, you can't hold off because your coworkers are going to tell you, "Just wait, because we're going to crash." Nobody knows this stuff,
No,
especially we as professionals don't know this stuff. How is somebody who's not a professional, who has their nose in everything, going to know? And I hate to put it that way, but there are those folks that just have their nose in everything.
yeah.
Um, with anything, I can't stress it to our audience enough to seek out a professional, whether it's you, Brad, whether it's me, or somebody within your reach of influence. Seek out the professional advice, because I'm telling you, I would not go to my coworkers to talk about a situation that's happening with my car. Definitely not. I
Yeah,
go to the professionals. I've learned a long time ago, actually last summer, you go to the professionals to take care of these items that are super important to you.
yeah, and really what it comes down to is, in this moment, in your personal situation, does this make sense? Does that make sense? Does that not make sense? What's happening right now for you personally? And that's the decision you need to base stuff upon, not what the Jones are doing,
Right.
not what some talking head said. Because right now, let's face it, the talking heads are wrong a lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing misinformation, underinformed information, over sensationalized information, and it's really difficult to even trust what those people that we've relied upon in the past are bringing to us. So let's figure out what's happening in your personal situation. If we can make sense of it, if we could put some comfort into it, let's have a heart and a head discussion around it and try to move forward from that.
Yes, very good. Very good. I like the way you summed it up. So we have some awesome news for our viewers, right?
Yes,
Friday, we're going to
Friday.
have our first guest ever, and we're going to try to have a guest every Friday moving forward. Um,
That'll be fun. I'm looking
who's
forward
our
to it.
guest?
Our guest is going to be Mr. Tim Andrews from American Family Insurance.
I'm pretty excited. So everybody, get ready for an insurance segment. It's not going to be long, but if you have questions, text them, email them, call us. Get those questions over to Brad, get them over to me, and we'll make sure that those
Yeah,
questions get answered by Tim on Friday when we have him in.
absolutely. He's a great guy, great expert too.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And then every Monday we'll reveal who the next guest will be for that particular Friday. We have next Friday lined up as well, so I can't wait
Yes.
to announce who that is. Um, anyway, on this note, I think that Brad and I have given you guys plenty to think about over the week. If you have any questions, want to pick our brains for any reason whatsoever, please give us a buzz, and we'll be happy to chat with you. Our information will be listed with this video, and one day we'll go live. That all depends on popular demand, but right now we'd like to give you the opportunity to ask these questions quietly and in confidence. So, again, your business isn't put out there.
Yeah, and I'd love to provide a quote for the week for people to think about, if you don't mind.
Right? Let's have
So
it.
I saw a quote this morning by a gentleman named Robert Schuller, and it says, "Tough times never last. Tough people do."
Amen
And
to
I think
that.
that we all just need to be kind of tough right now and be resilient, and we will turn the page here.
Well, being tough means being smart too. So guys,
Right.
if somebody's telling you something, fact check it.
Absolutely.
Check with your professionals, check online, whatever it takes, but fact check things. Don't just take your neighbor's word for it.
Amen to that.
All right, everybody, we'll have an excellent week. We can't wait to see you on Friday, and enjoy.